One snowy morning, a waitress's simple act of kindness toward a disabled boy caught the eye of a billionaire, and it changed both their lives forever. The little diner sat on the edge of town, its red bricks dusted lightly with snow. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee mixed with the sweet scent of pies cooling on the counter. The waitress, a young woman named Emily, moved quickly between tables, carrying plates and refilling cups. Her hands were nimble and practiced, but her eyes carried the quiet weight of responsibility. Emily had been working here for years. She didn't mind long hours, the early mornings, or the tired feet, because she knew she needed every dollar. Her life had not been easy, and she had learned early that no one was going to make things simple for her. But still, she carried herself with a warmth that people noticed. A quiet light that seemed to make the diner feel a little brighter. Outside, the snow was falling steadily, covering the streets and rooftops in a soft white blanket. Children would sometimes run and make snow angels, but today the streets were quiet. Winter had brought a calm, almost magical feeling to the town, and Emily loved watching the flakes swirl against the gray sky as she worked. Yet, there was a sadness in her heart she couldn't shake. Bills were piling up, and she had dreams of something better, something more than serving tables and washing dishes, but they always seemed just out of reach. Still, she kept smiling at the customers, asking kindly how they were, and making sure everyone felt welcome. That was who she was. She couldn't help it. She liked seeing people happy, even if her own life was hard. That morning, a small family walked into the diner. They were bundled up in thick coats, scarves, and gloves, snow sticking to the edges of their boots. Emily noticed them immediately, especially the little boy who was being helped along by his father. The boy's legs moved stiffly, and he seemed to lean on his father a little more than most children his age. Emily knew at once that he was disabled, though she didn't know how seriously. There was a softness in the father's eyes, a protective nature that made it clear he loved his son fiercely. He led the boy to a booth by the window, where the boy could see the snow falling outside. Emily approached with her usual friendly smile. "Good morning. How are you today?" she asked, her voice gentle and warm. The father smiled politely, nodding in return. The boy looked at Emily for a moment, shyly, and then turned his attention back to the snow. His small hands pressed against the cold glass, leaving tiny fingerprints as he watched the flakes drift down. Emily noticed the quiet sadness in his eyes, the longing to go out and play, but the frustration of not being able to do it easily. She felt a pang in her chest. She had seen children struggle before, but there was something about this boy that made her want to help. Even if just a little as she took their order, Emily couldn't help but glance at the boy through the window. She imagined him stepping into the snow, trying to reach the soft powder, only to find it too difficult or tiring. Her heart ached for him. She brought over their drinks, making small talk to put the boy at ease. "Do you like the snow?" she asked, kneeling slightly so she was closer to his level. The boy nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. Emily could see the sparkle of curiosity and excitement in his eyes. Hidden beneath the cautious look he always carried, his father watched quietly from across the table, observing the interaction. He was a tall man, sharply dressed, carrying the kind of quiet authority that suggested he was someone important, someone used to control and order. But here, in this small diner, he didn't interfere. He let the waitress speak with his son, watching closely but saying nothing. Something about the way Emily treated his son caught his attention. She didn't look at him with pity. She didn't treat him as fragile. She treated him as if he mattered, as if his happiness was important. And that simple respect impressed the father more than he expected. Emily noticed the father's gaze and gave a small, polite nod. She had learned not to be intimidated by people who looked important. Everyone deserved kindness, and she didn't let anyone's wealth or appearance change the way she acted. But still, there was a flicker of curiosity in her mind about who this man was. There was something different about him, something she couldn't quite place, but she didn't dwell on it. Right now, her attention was on the boy, was looking longingly out the window at the snow piling up on the street. Emily thought for a moment and then had an idea. "Do you like building snowmen?" she asked softly. The boy's eyes lit up at the question. "Yes," he whispered, almost shyly. Emily smiled. "Well, maybe I could help you build one after your breakfast," she suggested. The boy's small fingers fidgeted with excitement. He turned to his father, who raised an eyebrow but didn't object. The father knew better than to interfere when someone was offering genuine kindness to his son. The rest of the breakfast passed in a quiet, almost magical way. Emily brought pancakes and hot chocolate, careful to make everything just right. The boy giggled a few times, a sound that seemed to warm the diner more than the coffee ever could. The father, still observing, felt a rare sense of relief. It wasn't often he saw someone connect with his son so naturally, without hesitation or pity. He found himself admiring Emily quietly, though he didn't reveal it. There was something rare about her, something genuine that stood out from the ordinary interactions his son usually experienced. Finally, the meal was finished. Emily cleaned their table and gathered the dishes, smiling at the boy one more time. "Are you ready to go outside and make that snowman?" she asked. The boy nodded enthusiastically, nearly bouncing in his seat. His father stood, helping him adjust his coat and gloves. Emily opened the door, and the cold air rushed in, brushing against her face. She didn't mind the chill. She had grown up in winters like this, and there was a magic in the snow she couldn't ignore. As they stepped outside, the boy struggled a little with his balance, but Emily stayed close, steadying him gently and encouraging him. They laughed together as he touched the snow, feeling its cold, soft texture. She guided his hands to shape the snow, letting him do as much as he could, stepping in only when necessary. The father watched from a short distance, quietly observing every moment. He could see the pure joy on his son's face, a joy that had been rare in his young life, and he realized something powerful. This waitress, with no obligation or reason beyond kindness, had made his son feel special, capable, and happy in a way no one else had in a long time. Snow continued to fall, settling on their coats and hair, but neither Emily nor the boy noticed. They were caught up in the moment, in the simple happiness of creating something together. The diner behind them seemed far away, the world shrinking down to the small patch of snow where a boy and a waitress built a snowman together, and the father, standing nearby, felt something stir inside him that he hadn't felt in years. A sense of hope, gratitude, and awe. He realized that sometimes the most powerful moments weren't in boardrooms or grand estates, but here, in the quiet, snowy streets of a small town, where kindness and joy could touch lives in ways that money never could. The snow had piled up thickly on the streets, turning the little town into a quiet winter wonderland. The boy's small boots crunched through it, leaving tiny footprints behind as he carefully followed Emily. She stayed close, ready to steady him if he wobbled, her hands warm against his cold gloves. His father watched from a short distance, leaning against a lamppost, a hot cup of coffee in his hand, quietly observing the scene. He had never seen anyone show such patience and care toward his son before, and he found himself silently admiring her. Emily knelt beside the boy as they reached a small, open patch of snow. "All right," she said gently. "Let's make our snowman together. You can help as much as you want, and I'll help with the parts that are tricky." The boy's eyes lit up. He bent down, trying to scoop the snow with his small hands, and Emily guided him, showing him how to roll it into a small ball. She let him do as much as he could on his own, only stepping in when the snow was too heavy or difficult to shape. At first, the boy was cautious, unsure how much he could do. His movements were slow, but he smiled as Emily praised his efforts. "You're doing great," she said warmly. "Look at that. You made the perfect base for our snowman." He beamed at her words, a pure, unguarded happiness that made Emily's heart swell. She had always loved working with people, helping where she could. But seeing this joy, this small victory for someone who struggled, so much made her feel something powerful and almost magical. The boy tried to lift another ball of snow, struggling under its weight. Emily quickly stepped in, showing him a trick to roll it along the ground instead. He laughed, a soft, genuine sound that filled the air. She laughed too. And for a moment, the cold and the snow didn't matter at all. They were just two people enjoying the simple pleasure of creating something together. His father, watching quietly, felt a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. He had hired tutors, therapists, and caretakers, all trying to teach his son skills or keep him safe. But no one had ever brought him this kind of joy. Emily wasn't trying to fix anything. She was simply being kind, and that was enough to change everything. As they worked, Emily encouraged him to choose the features of the snowman. "What should we put for the eyes?" she asked. The boy thought for a moment, then pointed to two small stones near the edge of the snow. Emily picked them up and placed them carefully on the snowman's face, letting him help as much as he could. "Perfect," she said. "He looks just like you imagined." The boy clapped his hands and Emily joined in, happy to share in his excitement. They worked together for what felt like hours, building the snowman from the ground up. Emily showed him how to shape the arms, how to pat the snow to make it smooth, and how to add a scarf and hat she found in her bag. The boy's father watched, silently amazed. He noticed how Emily never once treated his son as fragile or incapable. She laughed at his mistakes, praised his successes, and encouraged him to keep trying. Her patience was endless, and her warmth was infectious. He realized that she saw his son not as someone who needed pity or constant supervision, but as a person with the ability to enjoy life, to create, and to be happy. At one point, the boy stumbled, losing his balance and almost falling into the snow. Emily caught him quickly, holding him steady and making sure he wasn't hurt. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. The boy nodded, brushing snow off his coat. He looked up at Emily and she smiled reassuringly. "See? Nothing can stop us when we work together." Her words, simple as they were, meant the world to him. For a moment, he forgot about his struggles and focused only on the joy of building, laughing and feeling capable. The father, still observing, felt a strange mixture of emotions. He was proud, relieved, and a little emotional. He had never expected that a simple act helping his son build a snowman could leave such an impact. He realized that in the hustle of his own life, he had overlooked how important small moments of kindness were. Seeing Emily treat his son with respect and genuine care reminded him of something. He'd almost forgotten that happiness often comes from human connection, not from wealth or possessions. The snowman began to take shape, and the boy grew more confident with each step. He rolled another ball of snow for the head, Emily guiding him with gentle hands, and carefully placed it on top of the base. They added the finishing touches: stones for buttons, carrot for the nose, and a small scarf Emily had tucked in her bag. When they stepped back to admire their work, the boy's face lit up with pride. "We did it," he exclaimed. Emily laughed and nodded. "Yes, we did. You helped me make the best snowman ever." His father approached, crouching down beside them. He smiled at the boy and then at Emily. "That's amazing," he said quietly, not wanting to interrupt the moment. Emily nodded politely, a little shy under his gaze. She wasn't used to being noticed in this way. She was just doing what felt right, helping a child enjoy a simple pleasure. And yet here was this man, clearly impressed by her actions. The boy's laughter and joy seemed to fill the entire street, softening the harshness of winter and making everything feel lighter as the boy hugged Emily tightly. She felt a wave of emotion she hadn't expected. She had helped countless people in her life, but this moment felt different. It was pure, unselfish, and completely real. She looked at him and smiled, her heart full. "I'm so glad we did this together," she said. The boy's father watched quietly, noticing the genuine connection between them. He realized that Emily had a rare quality. She saw people for who they were and treated them with kindness, without judgment, without expectation. Finally, the boy's laughter began to calm as he leaned against his father. Emily stepped back, letting them have a moment together. The father bent down and whispered something to his son, and the boy looked back at Emily with a small smile. She waved and turned to head back toward the diner, her boots crunching in the fresh snow. But the father called out softly, "Thank you." Emily paused, looking back. He nodded respectfully, and she smiled, feeling a quiet warmth in her chest. She didn't know that this simple act of kindness would be remembered forever. As she walked back, Emily reflected on the morning. Helping the boy had been easy, natural, and yet it had left her feeling stronger, happier, and more alive. She realized that small moments of joy, even for a stranger, could make a bigger difference than she had ever imagined. Little did she know, the father had been watching closely, noticing every detail, every laugh, every gesture. He was thinking about the rare quality of kindness he had just witnessed, and he knew that it was something extraordinary. The diner felt warm and cozy as Emily returned, the smell of coffee and pastries comforting her. She went about her work, refilling cups and clearing plates, but a quiet excitement lingered in her heart. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but it no longer felt cold or lonely. The boy's laughter echoed in her mind, and she smiled. She had helped him experience joy, something so simple and yet so profound, and she felt the magic of that moment in a way that stayed with her long after the snowman had been built. The father, watching his son at the diner's window, felt a sense of awe. He had never expected a simple act, helping his son play in the snow, to reveal so much about a stranger. Emily's compassion, patience, and genuine warmth had made a lasting impression on him. He knew, in that quiet moment, that the world was full of people like her, people who could touch lives without even realizing it. And he wondered how he could ever repay someone whose kindness had brought such happiness to his son, a happiness he had been searching for in every other way. The snow continued to fall outside, covering the town in white, but inside the diner, something brighter had been created, a bond, a memory, and the beginning of a story that would change all their lives forever. Tea. The father stood quietly at the edge of the diner, holding his hot cup of coffee. The boy had returned inside, still excited from the snowman they had built, and Emily was bustling about, clearing tables and smiling at the customers. He couldn't take his eyes off her. There was something about the way she had interacted with his son that stayed with him, the patience, the warmth, the genuine kindness that seemed to flow from her without effort. It was rare, almost impossible to find. And yet here she was, a simple waitress in a small town. Showing a depth of compassion he hadn't expected, he found himself thinking about his own life, about the world he lived in, where wealth and power were often measured by influence, not by human connection. He had everything money could buy, but seeing his son smile in a way he rarely did, laughing and feeling proud of what he had done, reminded him that there were things no amount of money could ever achieve. That simple snowman, built in the cold and snow, had brought something priceless to his son's life, and it had been Emily who had made it happen. As he watched her move from table to table, greeting customers with a warm smile, he realized how different she was from most people he had encountered. She didn't act out of ambition or expectation of reward. She acted because it was the right thing to do. Her kindness wasn't performative. It was natural, effortless, and genuine. He remembered the way she had guided his son's hands in shaping the snow, how she had encouraged him to try even when it was hard, and how she had celebrated his success as if it were her own. The father leaned against the wall, lost in thought. He had met many people, hired many people, and yet he had never seen someone like Emily. There was a light in her that was rare, something that couldn't be taught or bought. It was the kind of light that made people feel seen, valued, and safe. He realized that his son had felt that light, and he wondered what it would be like if more people in the world were like her. Inside the diner, Emily continued her work, unaware of the father's attention. She was focused on her customers, making sure everyone felt comfortable and cared for. She moved with a quiet confidence, balancing plates and drinks with ease, always ready with a kind word or a smile. She didn't notice the father approaching the counter, but when he spoke, her head tilted slightly in surprise. "Excuse me?" he said, his voice calm and respectful. "I just wanted to thank you." Emily smiled politely. "For what?" she asked, brushing her hands on her apron. "For what you did for my son this morning," he replied. "The way you treated him. It was remarkable. I've never seen anyone connect with him like that before. You made him so happy, and I wanted you to know that it didn't go unnoticed." Emily's cheeks flushed slightly. She wasn't used to receiving compliments like that, especially from someone she didn't know. "Oh, it was nothing," she said softly. "I just wanted him to have fun. That's all." But the father shook his head. "No," he said firmly. It was far from nothing. It was extraordinary. I've watched many people try to help my son over the years, but few have had the patience or understanding you showed. You didn't treat him like he was fragile or limited. You treated him like a person, like he mattered. That's something very rare. Emily looked down, unsure how to respond. She had never considered herself remarkable. She had simply acted on instinct, following her heart and doing what felt right. And yet, hearing these words from a man who clearly understood the value of kindness made something stir inside her. She felt a mix of humility and quiet pride. Realizing that her actions had had a real impact on someone's life, the father continued, his voice softer now, almost reflective. I've spent my life trying to provide for my family, trying to make sure my son has everything he needs. But sometimes I forget that happiness isn't about money or toys or lessons. Happiness is moments like the one you gave him today. Moments of joy, of feeling capable, of being seen for who he is. And you gave him that. Emily nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. She wasn't used to such emotional words, but she understood them. She had always believed that small acts of kindness could change the world, even if only a little, and now she was seeing it firsthand. The father's words confirmed what she had always hoped, that helping others mattered, that the simplest gestures could leave a lasting impression. He looked around the diner, as if weighing his next words carefully. I don't often do this, he said, but I would like to offer you an opportunity. Not because I expect anything in return, but because I want to give you a chance to do something bigger with your kindness and talent. I've seen how naturally you connect with people, how patient and understanding you are. Those qualities are rare, and they deserve to be recognized. Emily blinked, unsure what to say. She had never expected anything like this. Never imagined that her small act of helping a child in the snow could lead to an offer from someone like him. I don't know what to say, she stammered. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight, wasn't used to receiving attention for simply being herself. The father smiled gently. You don't have to say anything right now. I just wanted you to know that I noticed, and I want to help you if you're willing. You have something special, and I don't want it to go unnoticed or wasted. Think about it, and when you're ready, we can talk more. Emily nodded slowly, her mind racing. She had always dreamed of a better life, of doing something meaningful, but she never imagined it could happen this way. She thought about the boy, about his laughter, at the pride he had felt building the snowman, and she realized that her actions had more power than she had ever considered. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope. She felt that maybe, just maybe, her life could change in ways she had only dreamed of. The father left the diner quietly, giving Emily a respectful nod as he went. She watched him go, feeling a mixture of awe and disbelief. She had helped a child have a happy morning, and now, somehow, that simple act had led to an opportunity she never expected. She returned to her work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the boy, to the snow, and to the father who had seen something in her that she had never noticed herself. Over the next few days, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. She replayed every moment in her mind, the way the boy had smiled, the way he had laughed, and the way the father had spoken to her. It felt unreal, almost like a dream, but she knew it had happened. The experience had changed her perspective, made her believe that small acts of kindness could ripple out in ways she hadn't imagined. She realized that her life didn't have to stay the same, that opportunities could come from the simplest things. A smile, a helping hand, a moment of genuine care. The father, back at his estate, found himself thinking about Emily constantly. He admired her courage, her compassion, and her selflessness. He realized that in all his wealth and power, he had never encountered someone who possessed such a pure and rare quality. He began to think seriously about how he could help her, not out of obligation, but because he genuinely wanted to. He understood that people like her were the true treasures of the world, the kind of individuals who could make a lasting difference, not just in one life, but in many. Meanwhile, Emily continued her routine at the diner, serving coffee, clearing tables, and helping customers. But everything had changed for her internally. She felt lighter, more alive, and more determined to embrace her own potential. She realized that kindness mattered, that her actions had consequences far beyond what she had imagined. And though she didn't yet know how her life would change, she felt a quiet excitement, a sense that something extraordinary was on the horizon. The boy's laughter echoed in her memory as she wiped down the counter, reminding her that the simplest acts could leave the deepest marks. She thought about the snowman, about the joy she had helped create, and about the father who had recognized it. It was a lesson she would never forget, that genuine kindness, even in the smallest forms, had the power to transform lives. As the days passed, the snow began to melt, but the memory of that morning remained vivid. Emily knew that she had been part of something special, something rare and beautiful. She didn't yet understand the full impact of her actions, but she felt it in her heart, a quiet certainty that her life was about to change in ways she had never imagined. And somewhere, far away, the father knew the same thing, that the warmth and generosity of one woman had left an impression on him and his son that would last forever. Emily couldn't stop thinking about the father's words. She went through her shifts at the diner, smiling at customers, pouring coffee, and wiping down tables. But her mind kept drifting back to that moment. The snow, the boy's laughter, the way the father had watched her with admiration, it all played over and over in her mind. She had never imagined that a simple act of kindness could lead to such attention, let alone an opportunity from someone so powerful. At first, she had dismissed it as a polite compliment, something people said to be kind, but deep down, she knew there was more to it. A few days later, she received a note at the diner, discreetly delivered by the manager. It was from the father, politely asking her to meet him at a small cafe in town. Her heart raced as she read it. This was real. The invitation was not a trick, not a mistake. It was an opportunity. She had never been in a situation like this, never imagined meeting someone who could genuinely help change the course of her life. Excitement mingled with nerves. She had questions, doubts, and a fluttering sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. The morning of the meeting, she dressed carefully but simply, wanting to make a good impression without overdoing it. She left the diner early, feeling both nervous and curious. When she arrived at the cafe, the father was already there, sitting at a quiet table by the window, a warm cup of coffee in front of him. He stood as she approached, smiling kindly. "Thank you for coming," he said. His tone was calm, respectful, and entirely sincere. Emily nodded, feeling slightly overwhelmed, but trying to remain composed. They sat down, and for a moment there was silence, filled only by the soft sounds of the cafe, the clinking of cups, the hum of conversation, and the occasional laugh. Finally, he spoke. "Emily, I want to start by saying again how much I admire what you did for my son. The kindness, patience, and understanding you showed were extraordinary. I've been thinking about how I could offer you an opportunity to grow, to use your talents in a way that could really make a difference, not just for my family, but for many others." Emily listened carefully, her heart pounding. She didn't know what to say, unsure if this was real or if she was about to be offered something life-changing. I don't know what to say," she murmured. I try to do what's right," he smiled warmly. "And that's exactly why I'm here. I don't want to give you something because I think you deserve it. I want to give it to you because I see potential in you. You have a natural gift for connecting with people, for bringing joy and comfort. That's rare. I want to help you use that gift to do something bigger." Emily felt a mixture of disbelief and excitement. She had always dreamed of doing something meaningful, of having a life beyond long hours at the diner, but she had never imagined it could happen like this. She leaned forward slightly, curiosity and hope shining in her eyes. What do you mean?" she asked softly. He explained that he had a philanthropic foundation, one focused on helping children and families in need, especially those facing challenges similar to his son. "I would like to invite you to join the foundation," he said. "Not as a staff member in a formal sense, but as someone who can bring your warmth and understanding directly to the children we help. You'll have the resources, support, and guidance to make a real impact. You'll be able to touch lives the way you touched my son's." Emily's mind raced. She had never worked in anything like that before. She had experienced serving people, helping them feel comfortable and cared for, but this was on an entirely different level. The thought of being able to help children and families to make a meaningful difference in their lives filled her with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she held them back, not wanting to appear too emotional. I would love that," she said quietly, her voice trembling with excitement and disbelief. "I don't know if I'm qualified, but I want to try. I want to help," he smiled, nodding. "You don't need to worry about qualifications. What matters is your heart, your patience, and your willingness to care. That's what makes you remarkable. The rest can be taught. You'll receive training, guidance, and the support you need. But the foundation of what you bring, the empathy, the warmth, the ability to make children feel valued, that's something rare. That's something money can't buy." Over the next few weeks, Emily's life began to change. She continued working at the diner for a short while, finishing her obligations, but she also started visiting the foundation, meeting the staff, and learning about the programs. She observed how the children interacted, how the staff supported them, and she realized that every smile, every small act of kindness could have a ripple effect. She saw herself in a new role, not just as a waitress, but as someone who could bring hope, joy, understanding to children who needed it most. Her confidence grew as she spent time with the children. She remembered her own moments of struggle and hardship, and it gave her insight into how to connect with them. She learned to adapt activities to their abilities, to celebrate small successes, and to encourage them gently. Every laugh, every moment of pride she helped create reminded her of the snowman she had built with the billionaire's son. It was the same magic, the same joy, only multiplied by the number of lives she could touch. The father continued to observe her progress quietly. Impressed by her natural talent and the ease with which she connected with the children, he realized that his intuition had been correct. Emily had something extraordinary. She didn't seek recognition or reward. She simply cared, and that care inspired others, creating a ripple effect that reached far beyond what anyone could measure. As the foundation work became a bigger part of her life, Emily began to notice changes in herself. She felt stronger, more confident, and more capable than ever before. She understood that her actions, even small ones, had the power to change lives. The joy she saw in the children, the gratitude of their families, and the respect from the father all reinforced a belief she had held quietly in her heart, that kindness mattered, and that it could truly transform the world one day. She was helping a child with a painting activity, guiding their small hands carefully. The child smiled up at her, eyes shining with pride at their creation. Emily felt the same warmth she had felt building the snowman, that pure sense of connection and accomplishment. She realized that this was her calling, not because someone told her so, but because she felt it deep in her heart. She was making a difference, and the life she'd only dreamed of was becoming real. One moment at a time, the father watched from a distance that day, quietly proud. He had introduced her to the opportunity, but she had embraced it fully on her own. Showing initiative, compassion, and dedication, he realized that sometimes the most extraordinary people are discovered in the most ordinary places. And Emily was living proof. Her simple act of helping a boy in the snow had led to something far greater, a life dedicated to kindness, service, and making a difference. Emily's friends at the diner noticed the change as well. She moved with more confidence, spoke with a quiet authority when guiding children, and carried herself with a sense of purpose that had been missing before. Yet she remained humble, never forgetting the small moments that had brought her to this point, the snow, the laughter, and the warmth she had shared with one child on a winter morning. As weeks turned into months, Emily's involvement with the foundation deepened. She participated in planning events, helping families, and creating programs to make children feel valued and capable. She discovered her own strengths, learning to balance patience with encouragement and compassion with structure. Each success reinforced the lesson she had learned that morning in the snow. The genuine kindness could create opportunities and change lives, and through it all, Father remained a quiet supporter, never imposing, always respecting her autonomy. He had opened the door, but Emily had walked through it with courage and grace, proving that the simplest acts of kindness could lead to extraordinary results. He knew, as he watched her interact with the children, that she was destined to make a lasting impact on the lives of many. Just as she had made a lasting impact on his son, Emily had come a long way from her days in the diner. But she never forgot them. She remembered the long hours, the small tips, and the feeling of wondering if her life could ever change. And now, thanks to her own heart, her patience, one extraordinary moment of connection, her life had changed in ways she had only dreamed of. The snowman that morning had been more than a simple creation. It had been the start of a journey that would touch countless lives, including her own. Her heart was full of gratitude, not just for the father's support, but for the realization that every small act of kindness mattered. She had learned that even the simplest gestures, a smile, a helping hand, a moment of attention, could lead to life-changing consequences. And as she prepared for another day at the foundation, she felt ready for anything. Knowing that her life, once ordinary, was now filled with purpose, joy, and the promise of a brighter future. Emily had never imagined that her life could change so completely. The small moments at the diner, the laughter of a boy building a snowman, set her on a path she could have never foreseen. Months had passed since she first joined the foundation, and she had grown in ways she hadn't thought possible. Each day brought new challenges, new children to meet, and new opportunities to help. She learned to listen carefully, to celebrate even the smallest achievements, and to see potential where others might see only struggle. Her confidence had grown, but so had her empathy. The children she worked with were amazed by her patience and understanding. She knew how to make activities accessible, fun, and meaningful. She taught them simple skills, encouraged creativity, and always made sure they felt proud of what they had accomplished. A child who struggled to hold a brush could still create a painting that reflected their personality. Emily was always there, cheering them on, guiding their hands when needed. She had become more than a volunteer or an assistant. She had become a mentor, a friend, someone the children trusted and admired. The father watched quietly from a distance during these activities. He had introduced her to the foundation, but he marveled at how naturally she had taken to the work. She didn't need supervision or instruction to show care and connection. It came from her heart. Each smile she coaxed from a child, each spark of confidence she inspired, confirmed what he had suspected from the very first day he saw her with his son. Emily was extraordinary. She wasn't seeking recognition, yet she had a presence that lifted everyone around her. Emily's relationship with the boy had grown as well. They kept in touch even outside the foundation activities, exchanging letters and visiting occasionally. Each meeting reminded her of that first snowy morning, the snowman they built, and the happiness she had sparked. She realized that it was these small gestures, repeated over time, that created lasting impact. The bond she shared with him strengthened her belief that one person's kindness could change another person's world, and in turn, inspire further kindness. Her friends at the diner, who had once seen her simply as a hard-working waitress, were amazed at the transformation. They noticed the joy in her eyes, the confidence in her voice, and the glow she carried with her. Emily never boasted about her work or the recognition she had received. She simply moved with grace, always emphasizing the importance of empathy, patience, and genuine care. People were drawn to her energy, and many sought her guidance on how to interact with children facing challenges. She had become a quiet source of inspiration for everyone. Around her, Emily also began mentoring new volunteers at the foundation, teaching them the same principles she had learned through experience. Listen, encourage, celebrate small wins, and treat every child as an individual who mattered. She found fulfillment in helping others grow, passing on the lessons of kindness she had learned, and watching how her guidance allowed others to connect meaningfully with the children. She realized that the impact of her work extended far beyond the children. It reached families, volunteers, and even strangers who witnessed the results of compassion. The father occasionally joined her during events, observing the interactions from a respectful distance. He noticed how naturally she worked, how children gravitated toward her, and how families felt comfortable sharing their stories with her. He knew he had made the right decision in offering her this opportunity. He felt a quiet pride in having helped her find her calling, but even more, he admired the way she had embraced it. letting her natural kindness lead the way. Emily had not changed because of his wealth or influence. She had simply been given a chance to shine, and she had done so brilliantly. One winter morning, Emily organized a small outdoor activity at the foundation, reminiscent of the day she had built a snowman with the boy. Snow had just begun to fall, dusting the ground in white. She guided the children outside, showing them how to create shapes in the snow, build little sculptures, and enjoy the winter weather safely. Laughter filled the air as the children explored, experimented, and celebrated their creations. Emily moved among them, encouraging, helping, and celebrating each accomplishment. She realized in that moment that the same simple joy that had sparked the father's admiration months ago was now part of her daily life. Multiplied many times over, the boy, now more confident and independent, joined her outside. Together, they built a small snow sculpture, laughing and sharing memories of the first snowman they had made together. Emily felt a wave of happiness as she watched him smile and laugh freely without hesitation. She understood that these moments, repeated over time, had helped him grow just in skill, but in confidence and joy. She saw the effect of her actions ripple outward, touching more lives than she had ever imagined. Emily's life had transformed, but she remained humble. She remembered the diner, the long hours, the struggles, and the uncertainty of her past. She realized that her journey had begun with a small act of kindness, an effort to help one child feel joy. That simple gesture had grown into a path that allowed her to touch countless lives, each interaction building upon the last. She knew that her story was a reminder that even the smallest acts of compassion could have profound consequences. Over time, Emily began to take on larger projects within the foundation. She helped design programs for children with disabilities, coordinated family events, and even spoke at small community gatherings about empathy and kindness. Her work inspired others to volunteer, to take the time to connect, and to see the value in small, meaningful gestures. She realized that the principles she had always followed, patience, attention, and genuine care, were not just ways to help one child, but tools that could transform communities. The father noticed the change not only in Emily, but in his son as well. The boy's confidence had grown remarkably, his laughter was more frequent, and his willingness to try new activities had expanded. He had learned to trust and engage with others in ways that had once seemed impossible. Emily's influence had been subtle, yet profound, giving him space to grow, guiding him gently, and celebrating his every step forward. The father felt immense gratitude, knowing that Emily's kindness had permanently altered the trajectory of his son's life. Emily also found personal fulfillment in unexpected ways. She developed deep friendships with other volunteers, families, and staff, creating a network of support and encouragement. She had learned to trust herself, to recognize the impact of her actions, and to embrace opportunities she had once thought were beyond her reach. Her confidence and happiness grew alongside the children she helped, creating a cycle of positivity and growth that reinforced the lessons she had learned that first snowy morning one evening. As the sun set over the snowy town, Emily walked through the foundation, checking on children, finishing their activities. She paused for a moment and looked back, reflecting on her journey. She thought about the diner, the boy, the snowman, and the father who had seen something in her that she had not recognized herself. She realized that life had a way of rewarding kindness in unexpected ways. Her life was no longer limited by circumstance. It had expanded into a space where she could create joy, foster confidence, and inspire others. The father joined her briefly, quietly watching as she guided a small group of children through an art project. "You've done something incredible," he said softly, not wanting to interrupt but needing to express his admiration. Emily smiled, feeling a warm glow. "I only did what I could," she replied. "I just wanted to help." He shook his head gently. "No, you've done far more than that. You've transformed lives. You've given hope, confidence, and joy to children who needed it, and you've changed my son's life as well. And in doing so, you've transformed your own. That's something extraordinary." Emily felt tears prick at her eyes, but she smiled, humbled and grateful. She had never imagined that her life could hold such meaning and impact. She understood now that true transformation often started with small, selfless acts, and that kindness had the power to shape the future in ways she'd only begun to comprehend. Her story continued to unfold, each day bringing new moments of joy, connection, and growth. She never forgot the lessons she had learned: the power of empathy, patience, and genuine care, and she carried them forward, touching lives wherever she went. The snowman she had built months ago had been more than a simple winter activity. It had been the spark that ignited a chain of events, leading to a life filled with purpose, fulfillment, and lasting impact. In the end, Emily realized that life was full of unexpected opportunities, waiting for those willing to act with kindness and courage. Her journey had begun with a single act, a small gesture that had brought joy to one child. From there, it had grown into something far greater, a life dedicated to making a difference, inspiring others, and creating moments of happiness and hope. And as she watched the children play, laugh, and learn, she understood that her life had been forever changed, not by wealth, status, or chance, but by the simple, powerful act of helping someone in need.